People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. Well, nobody's interested in learning but the teacher. Segregation, determination, demonstration, integration, aggravation, humiliation, obligation to our nation.
Good morning. Welcome to Detroit Wants to Know. Well, my friends, Election Day is 2 days away. It's this Tuesday. We're coming to you this week from Thomas McGee's Sporting House in the Eastern Market. My friends, we've had Governor Snyder on. We've had the challenger Mark Schauer on. On our Real Women, Real Issues show, we've had Godfrey Dillard on. He's running for Secretary of State. But my friends, we have not, and we've been remiss, just like all the media has been remiss, we have not talked about the most important race, which is the Supreme Court race. Supreme Court justices, their decisions affect our lives more than the governor or the Secretary of State or the Attorney General. To explain it to you, I have my good friend, Vin Johnson. Vin, first of all, welcome back to Detroit Wants to Know. You've been missing in action.
I have been.
You've been on the western side of the state expanding and doing all that stuff.
Back and forth. Yes, sir.
Before we get into your expansion, though, tell our viewers the importance of the Supreme Court races.
Well, you're 100% right. We unfortunately, when it comes to elections, forget that part, Stephen. It's called drop-off. People don't vote all the way down the ticket, and they forget to vote for Supreme Court. So typically what happens, if you're a Democrat, about a third of us never get there. So you never vote for Supreme Court candidates. If you're a Republican, about 10 to 12% never get there. So forgive me, those of us Democrats, we are 3 times more likely not to even vote and have input into the critical race of Michigan Supreme Court. You got to go all the way down the ticket, folks, because you can't just pull the lever and go all Democrat. It doesn't go all the way to the Supreme Court. Flip it over, vote for the candidates.
Then, to drive it home on this, what decisions by the Michigan State Supreme Court have affected our lives the most? Just go over the last 12 months.
There's so many. Again, it's so difficult to even just focus on one. Everything from a criminal law type issues to civil law issues. They have all but eliminated. Just a week or so ago, I'm sure you know, Steve, there was a police chase, I think in the Redford area, and some innocent lady was killed. That family doesn't have any recourse because the Michigan Supreme Court about 10 years ago completely made up this law called Robinson versus City of Detroit, where in a police chase, even if you're an innocent person and you get killed by the fleeing person in the car, the police can't be held responsible unless they hit that car to cause a loss of control. It was completely turned the law upside down. And there's so many different examples. I wish you had a 2-hour show on this.
Then, we have a Republican-controlled, even though it's supposed to be nonpartisan, state Supreme Court.
5-2. 5-2. It's all out of 7. It's 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats.
Now, the commercials I've seen for Supreme Court shows the justices they stopped sex offenders, they did this in their prior lives, but it doesn't talk about any of their current decisions.
Right. Yeah, their focus is, of course, we're tough on sexual victims and keeping the sexual, if you will, the offenders in jail, and that's great. But what we need to remember are the folks like Ricky Bernstein, okay, Judge Deb Thomas, and Judge Bill Murphy are phenomenal candidates, and that's who have been nominated by the Democratic Party, and that's who your audience, I hope, will join me in voting for on this election.
But then, we don't know anything about these candidates. We don't see them walking down the hall, sitting by the fireplace, walking in a line. We don't see the commercials for them.
Right.
And people react to commercials.
That's true. And it's all about money. Let's be honest. In terms of the race, Michigan is such a big swing state. That's why we see the Schauer ads on every single day and the Snyder ads on every single day. And it works down. Unfortunately, we all know about the trickle-down theory of economics. The lower you are on the totem pole, the less money that's spent on you. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, as you said, Steve, shouldn't be down here. It should be way up here. They're going to be on that court for years and years to come. So we should, again, Ricky Bernstein, Judge Deb Thomas, and Judge Bill Murphy are who we should vote for Michigan Supreme Court.
Okay. Then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about Supreme Court. Then I want to hear what's up with you on the west side of the state. I can't believe you're expanding into unfamiliar territory over there. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Vin Johnson. Remember, it's all about the Supreme Court. You can have a governor. The governor can do all this stuff, signing Tesla, saying making Tesla illegal, but your victims' rights are controlled by the Supreme Court. We'll be right back.
Opportunity. It doesn't stare you in the face. It's not going to yell at you to come and get it. It doesn't knock. So what does opportunity look like? Not what you might think. You see, opportunity is not a right. It's definitely not equal. And it doesn't come with an instruction manual. That's because opportunity isn't found. It's molded, it's built, it's created. It's as much about grit as it is intellect. An explosive high-tech corridor located at the intersection of muscle and brains? You bet. Because opportunity only comes to those already in the game. What does opportunity look like? It looks like Detroit. Opportunity made in Detroit.
Welcome back to Detroit Wants to Know. We're coming to you from Thomas McGee's Sporting House in the Eastern Market. My guest is Vin Johnson. Vin, we were talking about the Supreme Court and how there's a trickle-down effect and how they affect us more. But they've made some decisions in terms of product liability and medical malpractice caps that have affected all of us.
No question. Steve, back in 1996, a lot of folks don't know that, the legislature passed this thing called limitations on damages, caps. So in medical malpractice cases and product liability cases, no matter how bad somebody's jacked you up and hurt you or killed you, you can only get like $400,000 no matter how bad your suffering is. And if you live, and let's say that you're a quadriplegic or paraplegic for the rest of your life, living on a ventilator, whatever, $400,000. It's atrocious. And every state around us, in Illinois and Wisconsin, and even Georgia, believe it or not, their Supreme Courts have thrown those things out and said, that's unconstitutional, that's depriving you, keeping you from getting a full jury trial. And that's exactly what our Supreme Court should have done years ago and hasn't. And I'm hoping that they do it now, and that's why we need to get Ricky Bernstein, Judge Deb Thomas, and Judge Bill Murphy in, and I think that's one of the first things that they're going to go after.
Well, beyond that, the Vin Johnson law. You've been missing in action. I hear you've been expanding to the west side of the state, into the heart of Republican territory. How is that going for you? What are you doing over there?
Well, believe it or not, I was actually born over there. I went to college, Kalamazoo College, over on that side of the state, and I've always loved the west side of the state. Lake Michigan, to me, is like a mecca. It's like an ocean in the middle of just beautiful sand. So I've always loved it, and I always knew I wanted to have an office there. So we opened up a Johnson Law branch office in right downtown Grand Rapids. And folks from Detroit, if you've never been there, you got to go. Steve, I mean, downtown, just like downtown Detroit, is rocking right now in downtown Grand Rapids in terms of the restaurants and the bars and the things to do. They're really, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. So I'm still in Detroit. I'm still in the Buell building. We've got 13, just about to get 14 lawyers now. Got one, soon to be 2 lawyers over in Grand Rapids, and I'm doing the back and forth I-96 thing. So it's all good. Thank you.
Share with us one of your biggest wins this year.
Well, last Friday, we were very fortunate out in Oakland County. We won a jury verdict of $2.75 million on behalf of a totally innocent victim sitting at a stop sign when a young man fell asleep because he'd been up 27 straight hours, crashed into 2 people, could have killed even more than that. My client lived, luckily, but he had a neck surgery, and he's got permanent nerve damage in his arm and weakness in his arm. And the jury out there, usually pretty conservative out there, as you know, Steve, we're very, very fortunate, and they awarded my client a lot of money for a well-deserved, very significant, life-changing injury.
Wow. Give us one more.
Well, we had two more big ones earlier this year, one in Detroit, an $8 million medical malpractice. We talked about those caps.
Yeah,
Even though I won $8 million, the second that the paper gets entered with the court took away $5 million, and now the judgment's only worth $3 million. It's still a lot of money, but $5 million that jury intended for the family, gone, thanks to those caps we just talked about.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's unconstitutional.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw one at you. There are several product liability, personal injury lawyers that charge an exorbitant percentage of the award.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a set cap that you charge?
Yes.
What is it?
Under Michigan law, you can't ask for more than 1/3 of the, if you will, the overall amount minus the cost that it takes to actually bring the lawsuit, and then I get 1/3 of that. I never change it. It's always the same. There are lawyers out there that try to take cases away from me by charging less, and I don't do it. It's a straight third to everybody, whether someone is rich, poor, white, black, whatever. Everyone's treated the same. It's 1/3.
Okay. Then you've captivated our viewers as usual. Tell us how people can find you.
855 Ven Fights, baby. And I really appreciate being on. It's great to see you, Steve.
All right.
Come to our holiday party, brother.
Amen. Last time I came to your holiday party,
I know.
I left really happy. Anyway, but we didn't have to have one of those suits where I hit 4 people and all that kind of
No,
stuff.
thank goodness.
I have a driver.
Dram
when I go
shop.
to your parties.
Dram shop. It's what
That's
you're
right.
talking
My friends, we'll be right back with more Detroit Wants to Know. I have my good friend Rick Blocker. You remember him from the primary. He really lit into Governor Snyder and ran over time. We're bringing him back. We're going to let him finish with the 14th District slate. Be right back.
Mike's Fresh Market, Detroit's largest independent supermarket with the best prices, quality, and service. Enjoy our vast selection of fresh fruits and vegetables. Wide aisles lead you to our own in-house bakery and deli. Beef, pork, chicken, seafood, and much more. You can rest assured you will feed your family the freshest food in town. Whatever you need, you can find it here at Mike's Fresh Market. Mike's Fresh Market with 2 locations, Gratiot and 7 Mile and Livernois and 7 Mile. Better food, better prices. That's Mike's promise.
When you're having a heart attack, this is how it feels to your heart. And if it happens at night or on the weekend, there's only one hospital team standing by on site to save you. Cardio Team 1, only at the DMC.
Welcome back to Detroit Wants to Know. We're coming to you from Thomas McGee's Sporting House in the Eastern Market. My guest this segment is Rick Blocker. In the last segment, we covered the Supreme Court and the importance of the Supreme Court race. And now we're going to talk about the 14th District, which actually affects me and my friends that have moved to West Bloomfield and my friends that have moved to Grosse Pointe. So here's my good friend Rick Blocker. Rick Blocker, chair of the 14th District. For the uninitiated, where is the freaking 14th District congressional seat?
Well, due to gerrymandering, this kind of crazy shaped district is not rectangular, but we start in southwest Detroit. We go through the southwest side of Detroit, south of Michigan Avenue. We go to the east side of Detroit, south of Mack. Then we go to most of the northeast side of Detroit. We cover all of the points. We cover Harper Woods. On the west side of Detroit, we cover from Woodward to Greenfield, from 8 Mile down to Linden. Then we have Oak Park, Southfield, Farmington Hills, West Bloomfield, Royal Oak Township, Sylvan Lake, and Pontiac. And we also have Hamtramck.
Man, that's a diverse district.
It is very diverse. It's the largest Democratic district in the state of Michigan right now.
But it's economically diverse.
Oh, it's so economically diverse.
I mean,
We
you
go
have the
from-
most wealthy suburb of Detroit,
Yes.
which are the points,
the points,
okay,
West
to-
Bloomfield also. Yeah.
to the poorest part of Detroit, which is southwest Detroit.
That's Southwest Detroit, part of the east
And
side
Pontiac.
of Detroit, northeast, yeah, and Pontiac.
And you have 2 cities which are under, well, Detroit's no longer technically under emergency management, but at one time you had 2 cities that were under emergency management.
Yeah, and I still believe Detroit has some form of emergency manager. So, man, we have Pontiac too. So,
Yeah.
that's absolutely correct.
Rick, tell us about the 14th Congressional District slate.
We have a very diverse slate, as you would imagine. We are supporting all of the state Democratic candidates. I did bring a copy of the slate here. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. We was able to do Oakland County slate and a Wayne County slate, so we showed our diversity here. As you see,
You know, when you first showed me this thing, I was trying to figure out the Board of Regents thing. That was the first thing. I hadn't heard about the Board of Regents. I didn't know there was a Board of Regents race.
Yeah.
I know we worked really hard to get our girl, Dr. Shauna Ryder Diggs, elected regent, but I don't know these other people.
well, we got some great candidates. Dana Thomas, I'm going to pay a lot of attention to Wayne State because we're in Detroit right now, but she's an outstanding person. She's married to Bankalade Thomason, who's the head of one of the publishers, or I don't want to get
Editor of the Michigan
editor
Chronicle.
of Michigan Chronicle. And then Marilyn Carey is a former Supreme Court justice, so that's a very strong ticket. Michigan State, you have Faylene Owens and George Perlis, two great names. And Michigan, you got Catherine White, Mike. Mike's a great guy, I met him. And then for the State Board of Education, we got Pamela Smith and Cassandra Albright, who can tell you the real truth about, you know, Snyder says he hasn't cut the budget. These two people could tell you it has been $1 billion cut from education in the state of Michigan since he has taken office.
Okay, you keep going with the slate. The education boards are all interesting. Tell us about the Secretary of State's race. Why is it important that a Godfrey Dillard be elected over a Ruth Johnson?
It seemed to be a concerted effort to suppress the vote in Michigan. Godfrey is for same-day registration, same-day voting. He's for having super centers when you can come into the Secretary of State office and not take a number and wait forever. And voting is your most precious privilege as an American citizen. And you should have the right to vote. It should be easier, not harder to vote. So, and I think Godfrey is the right guy. He's been around advocating for working people, and he's going to do some great innovations in the Supreme Court, I mean, not in the Supreme Court, but the Secretary of State offices to make it easier to vote. That's what it's all about.
Okay. Rick, when we come back, I want to talk about the governor's race.
Okay.
I have some very strong opinions about Governor Snyder. I have some strong opinions about Mark Schauer, and I want you to convince me why I should go with Schauer over Snyder.
No problem.
All right? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Detroit Wants to Know with Rick Blocker from Thomas McGee's Sporting House.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Team is by far, from my estimation, a premier mental health service organization. We are addressing the basic needs and the mental health concerns of our consumers. We're able to provide 24-hour psychiatric care when needed.
Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
Detroit Wants to Know is sponsored by the AFPD, the voice of independent retailers.
Welcome back to Detroit Wants to Know. We're coming to you from Thomas McGee's Sporting House in Eastern Market. My guest is Rick Blocker. Rick, I've got to ask you this question. You know, I was all, after your tirade at the end of our last segment in August, right before the election, I was all against Governor Snyder. Well, I'm going to tell you, I did an interview with the guy. And I asked him, was he trying to de-black Detroit? He said no. And then he was able to name all the things he's doing for the neighborhoods in Detroit, from microloans to shooting development dollars out there and all of that. I asked him about the driver's responsibility fee. Okay, the guy has taken something that was done under the Granholm administration and supported by Mark Schauer, the driver's responsibility fee, and has been trying to dismantle it, okay? So my mind started tilting. I said, you know, maybe I can go for Snyder. Maybe I can do this. Maybe this guy ain't so bad for Detroit. Make me know it, Rick Blocker.
Okay, well, let's just start with the state of Michigan right now. We're 49th in the country as far as future growth, future job development. Even though the unemployment is the lowest in this country and has been in over 10 years, we're still 44th in unemployment. So the money he gave to all of his billionaires' friends or these corporations, the billions of dollars, while we have a pension tax, if you're between 62 and 67, a fourth of your income is ate up, or up to a fourth is eliminated by this pension tax. He gave this money and it hasn't translated to jobs. Now you talk about Detroit. I live downtown. Downtown's great, but the neighborhoods are still in bad shape. We haven't seen the economic recovery that the rest of the country has, and it's about jobs. How can you take away $1 billion from education and these corporations and not have the jobs there? It's jobs, jobs, jobs. Detroit, certain parts of Detroit still have 30% unemployment. I wish I could say I felt all of the great things he's talking about, but I haven't felt it. I have had 10 friends who had to move out of this state because of this pension tax. If you got a $3,000 a month pension and he takes a fourth of that, what do you have left? And look at the pensioners, the people who worked in Detroit, who deferred wages. A lot of people don't understand, when you get a pension, you're deferring wage. You made a decision not to get another 50 cents an hour, so when you retire, you can retire in dignity. And now to have that taken away, where is the 70-year-old going to go for a job? I don't share the optimism that Rick Snyder is trying to convince people. I don't feel it. I don't think the people in Detroit feel it. I don't think the citizens of Michigan feel it. And they got a chance to vote and to share their opinion. So I hear some of the things you articulated earlier, but you ask the average person in Detroit how they feel and how they feel about the direction of this state right now.
Okay. My friends, you've heard it from Rick Blocker. If you've watched the show, you saw the Schauer interview, you saw the Snyder interview. I will make up my decision, my mind, in the next coming days, right before the election day when I go in to vote. But the one thing I will be certain of, I will be paying very, very close attention to the Supreme Court race. You heard what Ven said. They really, really affect our lives. And it's a big decision. Voting is our right. You need to come out and vote on Tuesday. Vote, pay attention, go beyond the commercials, and study the ballot and go all the way down the ballot. The Supreme Court is the most important part. It makes it easy for you. Start with the Supreme Court and work back up. When we come back, we're going to talk to my good friend Eric Olson, the owner of Thomas McGee's Sporting House and Lounge, and we'll get to see what he decides to do on election night. We'll be right back. The stock market can swing violently even on a simple rumor. You have worked too many years to risk your retirement savings. This is Steve Hood. If you want to reduce the risk of losing your assets, call Samasco Financial today at 586-493-9989. Their team of professionals will show you how to protect and grow the fruits of your labor without the uncertainty of the markets. Call Samasco Financial today at 586-493-9989. Your peace of mind depends on it.
ETX Closed Captioning is sponsored by the Detroit Seafood Market.
Welcome back to Detroit Wants to Know. This week we've been coming to you from Thomas McGee's Sporting House in the Eastern Market, and it's just about to be their 1-year anniversary. We came here when they first opened, and now he's still here. Eric Olson, my man, the proprietor.
What's up, Hood?
Let me tell you, I love interviewing you because if you ever want to look thin, sit next to another fat guy.
Yeah, I know he works out, right?
Anyway, so tell me about it. It's been a year. You became the soccer hub, and you're still selling whiskey.
We're still here, man. We're still selling whiskey, which I always told everybody, right? You want to keep stability, just sell good beer, good whiskey, and Detroit will come. So it's been almost a year. We're about 3 weeks away from our 1-year anniversary. You were here right when, right after we opened. We did great with the World Cup. We do fantastic with the Lions games.
With all these TVs, it's got to be crazy.
Yeah, a boxing, we get a big boxing crowd because I show all the fights. And just anything. Anybody wants to see any game, we put on.
Okay.
So just come on down and tell the girls what to put on, and we'll put it on for you.
Is it safe here in the Eastern Market at night?
Yeah, it is, man. It is. And this is every day, 2 a.m. for a year. We haven't had any problems at all, knock on wood. Slowly but surely, the street lights are coming on. We still need them on the strip here. But, yeah, there's a little bit of petty crime, like there is in every city. And about that, a lot of that happens because somebody left a purse sitting on a seat or something like that.
Okay, what are your hours?
We're open every day. During the week, we open at 1 p.m. to 2 a.m. And on the weekends, we open at 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. We're open to 2 a.m. every single night. If it gets slow, we stay open.
Now, it's still a bar with no food, but you have Sapinos around the block.
Yep.
You have Zeff's around the block.
We sure do.
And I hear there's a
Yep.
restaurant opening next door.
Good buddy Ray Moses is opening Stash next door. He's specialized in international bar food. Probably springtime. Great, creative, simple food that everybody loves, man. And after drinking whiskey, they'll love it even more.
One of your signature drinks is Irish coffee.
Yeah.
And and what else do you have here?
We've got all kinds of Irish coffees. We've got that's our house drink. We have one of the largest selections of whiskey downtown. We got 12 cold beers on tap every day, and that's what we do, man. We also have your vodka and gins and tequilas and everything for the rest of the city. But we're going to talk you into drinking whiskey when you come out here.
Why does it have to be my vodka? Anyway, I see all these TVs here. Election night's coming up.
Yeah.
Are you going to be open election night?
Yeah. I show sports all day, every day, every game, every sport, every fight. Election night is one of the few nights where we'll turn the TVs off of that. So even though we'll keep the game on election night, everybody come on down, have a few whiskeys, and solve the world's problems and watch it all unfold in front of us.
Okay. One more thing.
Yeah.
So your anniversary is the 8th.
8th. Yep, November 8th.
November 8th. And what will you be doing special that night?
We got a party. The planning is still in the works, but we're going to open it up. We got both sides of the building. We have the beer hall on the other side. We're looking at the possibility of putting a tent out there, things like that. It'll probably be a good 12, 14-hour party. We'll open at 9 in the morning that day, probably go to 2 in the morning. Because we have a lot of different groups that we draw from, and they come at different times of the day. So we'll get waves of people, our suburban friends who come downtown early in the morning for Saturdays at Eastern Market, all the way through to that late night crowd when bartenders from other bars get cut and come on over.
Okay. Eric Olson, congratulations on a year.
Man, thanks for coming back.
And I'm glad you're still your same size. You make me feel small. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Election Time Tuesday. Go vote, and then come down here to Thomas McGee's Sporting House and watch the results. It'll sure be interesting. You'll have great conversation. Have a great week. Vote. It ain't illegal yet.